Welcome back, America. Our friend General Jack Keane, retired 4-star Army general. Jack, I don't know what we would do without you on the network, and you're just a breath of fresh air and enormous knowledge and wisdom. So here's my question to you. Obviously, Iran, what do we need to do now, and how do we end this?
Yeah, well, of course, that's a big question, and let me unpack that a little bit. Let me remind our audience really what happened here. On February the 28th, we began this war with Israel, the most proven, and the United States, the two of the most proven militaries that exist in the world today, and fighting together for the first time. Quite remarkable in itself. And we stopped after 38 days. The president assigned objectives to the military. Prime Minister did the same with the IDF. And those objectives were to take away Iran's military capability, destroy its industrial base to be able to replenish it, take out as much as the leadership and the organizations that support it clearly, and focus on some of the leadership, and make certain that as much of their infrastructure indeed was destroyed. And of course, military weapons, ballistic missiles, drones, and nuclear enterprise for sure. At the 38th day, we stopped, and we had about 2 weeks to go to finish those objectives. Those objectives, in the minds of the United States and Israel, would not create a regime change in of itself. They certainly would welcome that, but would likely put it on a path to a regime change, because they would be in such shape, such bad shape, they would be vulnerable to their population if we assisted that population. That was kind of the thought process. And then the strategic objective, something I think which is getting lost here, is that would reset the region for years to come, possibly decades to come, because we would be able to put the region on a path to stability and peace, which it has not enjoyed post-World War II. That's the reality of it. And if the aggressor goes away, an enduring peace can come. Normalization with Israel, with the countries in the region, would likely take place. And certainly normalization between Lebanon and Israel, and also potentially Syria and Israel as part of that story. Those were strategic objectives, and they're not just aspirational. They are indeed achievable objectives. And where are we now? On April the 7th, we went to a ceasefire. The mission was not complete. Why the ceasefire? The Straits of Hormuz was seized on March the 3rd. As a result of that, shipping and transiting through the Gulf essentially was stopped. Oil and gas prices rose, markets were being affected by it, and we had a worsening situation economically as a result of what the Iranians were able to achieve. And they began that on March the 3rd. April the 7th, we went to a ceasefire. And as a result of that ceasefire, the Iranians invited us to negotiate opening the Straits of Hormuz. That was the incentive to go into negotiations. Where do we stand? 4 months later, that diplomatic effort has not been achieved. There was even an agreement in the memorandum of understanding opening up the Straits. We removed the blockade. They removed their interference and intervention with the Straits, and they broke that in a matter of days. We are now applying as much economic pressure as we can to the regime, using a naval blockade. And what Secretary Bessent is doing is eye-watering in terms of the economic fury that he is creating on the regime. But the truth is, the Iranians believe, now we got to understand, this is in their head. In their head, they believe time is on their side and they can ride this out, despite the economic suffering of their people. And that is the position they have taken. So the economic path is one thing, and no one knows if that's true or not. Even the Iranians don't know it. It's not knowable at this time whether economic collapse will actually take place, and they'd be willing to make a deal they're not willing to make now. Here's what we know. We know if they do make a deal, well, they will not comply with it. How do we know that? Because that's what they already did. It is unlikely they will make a deal that they will comply with. And secondly, then it makes no sense to give them the finances that deal with demand, which would enable them to recover and rebuild. And that means a subsequent administration has to deal with this very regime we were going to bring an eventual end to. And that's the path that we're on right now. We have got to figure out a way to stop this regime.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.